Hello. So I thought I'd make a video here just breaking down one of my project files. This is Hyperion Lights. It's from my most recent album and it seems to get a lot of good feedback. And so I wanted to break down the project file. And this one's also relatively simple compared to some other ones that I have. But this is for anybody that is interested in music production, interested in learning or already learning or um, anybody that just kind of wants to see what's going on here. It is going to be quite long and it gets into some technical stuff, which I admit is rather boring, but it's part of the process. Yeah, so my first step when I go to write a song is I will come up with this is usually the first step, I will come up with a chord progression. So for this, I actually wrote this song after I started it the night of seeing Porter Robinson live. I was feeling inspired and I wanted to write kind of something similar. He's one of my favorites. So the chords are actually just straight up the same progression as Divinity by Porter Robinson. And yeah, I'm just going to admit that it's the same progression with some variation, I think. But yeah, that's what I feel like a lot of musicians do now. They'll take something that they're inspired by or a song they like and just kind of use the same progression or do it in a different key or reverse it, what have you. And yeah, that's what I do as well. I'll find a song that I like. I'll see what key it's in, maybe write some chords in the same key, yada yada. So here are the chords right here. I believe this is in E flat is the key, D sharp or E flat. Uh, and yeah, so once I have some chords I like, I'll usually just get going. And I think I was playing around with an arpeggiator, which is what I like to do in my songs, is lots of arpeggiation, you'll notice. I'll kind of fool around with the arpeggiator, maybe add some notes, take away some notes till it sounds right. So this is going to be the intro of the song. We have the arpeggio and the synth that I'm using for this is Vital. It's a free synth that you can download. I usually use Serum, but sometimes if I want maybe a warmer sound, Vital has that nice warm tone to it. It sounds great. So, and key important thing here is the automation. So this, I believe, is being automated, and what that means is it's slowly coming up, slowly opening up the filter of the frequencies. This is one of the first things I learned when I started producing, and I feel like it's an important thing. So this is just being automated here, and if you're in FL Studio or whatever DAW you're using, you can automate everything, pretty much anything that you want. So this is just creating an automation clip right here, and then I map it. That's what this line is here. It's slowly going up, and then I have it right before the drop. It's opening up a lot more. Yeah, and then I have this layer here. It's kind of just, it's basically just the middle notes of the arpeggio. And that's adding a layer or even a melody in this right here. And that's kind of like the main theme of the song is this simple melody right here, which is basically just a section of the arpeggio taken out with some added notes. So yeah, keep it simple. I think that's an important thing, keeping it simple. Simple is effective. It doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to sound good, in my opinion. But there's no rules. So, and then I also have a pad going in the intro. And that is using Serum, everyone's favorite synthesizer. And I think this is just a Duskus style pad. Duskus is a really good producer. Love his music. It was made by Oversampled, and I just kind of tweaked it a little bit. So that's what I do. I'll use a lot of oversampled stuff. He's a YouTuber producer who makes a really good presets for Serum, and also him and his team make great samples. So that's pretty much like all the samples that I use for percussion, um, here and there, especially at this time. I started this in 2021, so I was definitely using a lot of oversampled stuff back then. But then it took me probably, let's see, I came out with this, it's probably a year and a half. I was working on this song. Not every day, of course, but over time, I come back to it, working on other things, working in general, like at a job. Yeah, come back to it, and then it became the first track of my most recent album. So yeah, so got the pad. Oh yeah, I introduced this hi-hat right here, midway through. And this is like kind of a less traditional build-up. Usually I'll have snares going and like, the that. But this one, I didn't feel it was right for that. It is a much different structure. It's more simple actually than most of my songs. We just have this drop at the beginning, the break, the build up, building all the way up to the second drop, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, so different structure than normal, but I felt it flowed pretty well. So, all right, let's get to the drop. So, big drop here. What I like to do is layer a bunch of chords together. It kind of just fills out all the frequencies. And this is something I had to learn when I first started. And I would listen to like Son Holo or Porter or whoever, and they would get to the drop, and I'm just like, how do they make it sound so good, And I'm still learning, obviously, but that's a key element with this is just filling out all the frequencies. So let's go ahead and listen to it real quick. So we're going to look at these chords here. I'm using Vital for one of the chords. There we go. This just makes like a warm sound. It's pretty simple. It's just some saw waves going here. with a just being sustained. And then the second layer, we got some serum chords, very similar, saw waves with some movement. And that's actually a preset from Oversampled. And that's what when I first started learning, because obviously the first time I pulled serum up, I have no idea what's going on here. And it takes years to actually understand everything, in my opinion. So yeah, I still use presets. I'm not that great at sound design, so I find ones that I like and I just go ahead and use them, and then I might adjust them. And now I kind of learned over time how to make um, my own sounds. Well, that's what I learned. But yeah, it just takes time to kind of learn and fool around just to get familiar with this. So I definitely recommend when you're first starting out, find some presets that you like and see what they're doing, like what kind of waves they're using, saw, triangle, square, what have you, and the effects they're putting on there. Um, that's a big thing when you first start out, is just learning how to make sounds, because that's what music is. It sounds. So yeah, um, yeah, that chord is just from Oversampled, and ironically is Portify pack and just flicker. And then got kind of a bright higher layer here. Filling out some higher frequencies. And then just the basic saw wave with a little bit of dirtiness going on there, a little bit of an edge. And then we got this bass layer. And obviously that on its own doesn't really sound good, but in the context of everything, it really fills out those low mid frequencies. I can show you here, the bass layer. Here's the EQ for it. It's just being notched into that mid low range around 180 hertz. That's where I decided to put that. And keep in mind, all of these chords are EQ'd to their respective frequencies. For example, these I usually cut off the low end to leave room for some bass. And then this one's a little bit higher, kind of notched out right there. I usually I'll play these chords together. So you can just highlight all these and pull up all the EQs and just pull around until it sounds like they all fit together. And then add the bass, the mid bass, and then arguably the most important part, the sub. You can hear the difference before and after here. So yeah, the sub adds a lot. You need that. You need that to have a good drop. This is just the bass notes of chords, and I'm using an 808 sound just made in Serum. Just one of the oversampled 808s. and it's kind of hitting with the drums as well. So for the drums, I think this, I'm just using an oversampled loop. If it fits well, then I'll use it. Oh, that's the cymbals. Yeah, sometimes I'll start it when I'm writing, I'll start out with the loop. If I like it, if it sounds good, I'll keep it in there. If I like parts of it, I'll slice it up. And then, for example, with this, or if I can't find any loops that really fit, then I'll go in and make a kick and a snare pattern, hi-hat and whatever. Yeah, with this, I felt like adding just a couple layers. So I got some snare layers going here. Where's that? It's a Virtual Riot snare. Really long reverb tail on that. And then I think I added another one here. This is just a higher, short, little clap snare. And then all together with the hi-hat. That's pretty much all the percussion going. And then another important thing to do is side chaining. So what that is, if you don't know already, whenever the kick and or snare hits, you can do it on the snare, or you can have a separate side chain for the snare. But I'll most definitely always do it on the kick. So what that does is open up space for the kick to fill in between all the other sounds. Let me just show you an example here. You can hear it being triggered. And then here's without. So I have a trigger set up, and how I do that in FL Studio is I just add a MIDI out and then map whatever port, it doesn't matter what number. And then what I use for the sidechain is Shaperbox. I pretty much use this plugin in every song, but you can do it with any volume automation plugin. There's even like in FL Studio, you could just literally use a what is it called? Just a standard volume automation and make a sidechain with that. But I like how this works. I don't have it quite cutting all the way down. I have it down to minus 11 dB. So what that does, that'll cut out the sounds as the kick is hitting to make room for it. Without it, it just sounds kind of messy. You can hear how it's kind of distorted every time the kick hits, but then adding this just tightens everything up. Sounds much better. Okay, and then moving on to the break. So I pretty much keep the arpeggio going. Oh yeah, cut out the main one, just keep the melody going here. Dropping it back down, dropping the EQ back down to like, and that's pretty much gonna build all the way up until the next drop. introducing, the pad keeps going, but I'm introducing a new sound here, a pluck. Love a pluck. Pretty much use a pluck type sound in every song right? This one in particular, almost got a percussive element going. And you hear how it's a little bit distorted there. That's on purpose. So I'm using Isotope Trash, which is a great distortion plugin. I've been using it a lot, especially in the past when I discovered it in the past couple years. And this is just barely. It doesn't take much, just a little bit of subtle distortion. You can see if I put it all the way up. It's way too much. So yeah. Distortion going on there, and the pluck sound is using Serum, of course. And this is from Ayin Zaev, or I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Halcyon Volume 2. This is from the official Serum website. You can actually go on and check out. I'm pretty sure he's got some new ones too. This is kind of old. When I was first starting out, within the first like few months, I discovered this, and I love the sounds that he makes. They're just classic electronic sounds for arpeggios, leads, pads. They're great. So this one's just one of the plucks here. And then you'll notice I have an automation going for the filtering this pluck. Just a subtle, it only goes up to 37% here before the drop. And you'll hear the difference from the beginning here to towards the end. And that's just going to be building up the whole time. And then second phrase here, add this bass. So it transitions. This is important too. These just simple like transitions here. That's really important to glue everything together. Between phrases, you need some transitions. So. This is just a simple Reese bass. Make sure I got it. There we go. And Reese bass, that's just another name for like a long, sustained saw bass. And of course, I'm using an oversampled. It's perfect Reese, and literally, it's perfect. Like for a Reese, you don't really need much more than that. And there's not even a lot of effects on this, just some EQ and some saw waves with just 4 and 5 voices. Beautiful. And then third phrase in the break, I introduced this melody here. Oh, I forgot. I added this I mean, it was like a year later, right before I released the song. It's just ethereal sounds using a guitar sample that looks like I stretched. And this is this is a great thing about FL Studio. Take any sample and just like choose where it starts, stretch it, and you can make all kinds of, it's infinite. Crossfade, yeah. And I'm getting those weird artifact subtle artifact things by using Stutter, Edit 2. It's another great plugin. For example, here's it without. It's just a guitar sample in the key. And I'm adding stutter and some delay. An endless smile just for the reverb. Great plugin too, by the way. If you haven't ever seen this, pretty fun to play around with. And yeah, so that's just adding some subtle sounds. You probably wouldn't even notice unless you're paying attention. Yeah. All right, and then on to third phrase here. We got I introduced this melody here. Here's another subtle thing, just a vocal. Long reverb, just a vocal sample I found on Splice. Subtle things like that add so much. So anyway, this melody, so I'll go into my process for writing melodies because some people have said that I don't know if I am, but they said I have some kind of gift writing melodies. I don't know where it comes from or why. I just, all I do, to be honest, I just kind of click around until in the piano roll until I find something that I like. And then something I've been learning recently is just keep it simple. The most memorable melodies are simple ones, if you think about it, especially in like pop music. There's like songs with billions of plays that are just using three or four notes. Like, yeah. So that's something when if you listen to my earlier music, I got maybe more complicated with the melodies, but recently I've been just keeping it simple. And then honestly, I'll just pull up some chords. I'll take some chords, for example, like this. This is just the chords of the song. And then maybe even pull up a piano. That is not a piano. That is Sublab, which is a great plugin, by the way. We're going to replace that with a piano labs. This makes a great piano sound. Labs. I think it's free actually too. Just the basic version, the soft piano, and then put those chords in there. I kind of regret not putting piano in the song now. But anyway, so I'll take that and I have it set up to it. It'll auto highlight in the piano roll. I know it's kind of cheating, but that's what I do, honestly. I'll just have it highlight in the key and click around until if I have a starting note like D, that sounds like a good start. Yeah. Let's make these a little bit longer. So there you go. There's a simple melody right there. I would keep working on this, but you get the idea. Yeah, just there's no rules really. I just kind of feel it out until it sounds good. And as far as music theory goes, I know basic music theory. I'm not like a scholar or anything, but just knowing what key you're in and then being able to obviously stay within that key. But you can hear it as well. Like for example, these notes are going to be off key. Yeah, it's pretty obvious. If it's not obvious to you, then I'm not sure what to do about that. But this literally helps so much, having the FL Studio piano roll and just having it highlight. It'll automatically highlight the keys or the notes that are in the key, and you can have it even stamp. You can do the stamp and just do like any, like, look at these. There's so many different scales you can go. Major bebop, sure. If you're doing bebop, that sounds good. But just like for me, just keeping it simple and just like that'll stamp down a chord. Well, okay. But yeah, you get the idea. And then you can use this as a tool to help you. That's why this is one of the main reasons I like FL Studio, is this piano roll right here. It might even be worth it to get it just for the piano roll, even if you use Ableton or whatever, Cubase, whatever you want to use. Apple Logic right here is good. But yeah, and then so I introduced this melody here. And for this melody, the sound is a serum sound, a lead from Ayan Zaev. And then I think I got some more. Yeah, I got the stutter effect going on with Shaper Box. I like to do a 16th note stutter. That's kind of like a Son Holo thing. I noticed she does a lot of 16th notes. And it just, I mean, gives it the movement. Yeah, and then you can adjust this to however. You can even change the attack. I wanted that attack right on the dot there, so sky's the limit with that, I guess. And then second phrase here, I got this other melody. And that's just using the arpeggio sound from earlier. And again, I think this, I actually, sometimes I get inspired by a melody from a sample that I hear, and it's like, it sounds cool, but it's not exactly what I want. So I'll kind of take the notes and change them up. And then reintroduce the hi-hat here. Oh yeah, the tom. This is something I add later on in the production process. This tom here. So if I can figure out how to make a sound. It's just a tom sample. That's not me recording anything. It's just a sample I found on Splice because I wanted a tom made by Steve. Thanks, Steve, whoever you are. And then I'm cutting off the tail of that because the reverb was a little bit too long. So again, your Shaper Box coming in clutch, just kind of controlling the tone of that tom. Just wanted to make it more shorter attack. And then I'll actually be playing that live on a floor tom whenever I do decide to play this live. Anyway, getting back into the build up. So yeah, and I'm just kind of, usually you want to cut out before the build, maybe however long you decide to. Usually for me, it's 4 beats. And I'm letting some stuff ring out here. The pluck, mainly. And that's just natural, whatever the natural like delay of the great. Love it. And then for the final drop, it's basically same as the first, but with the melody and the melody layer put back in there. And then I believe there's one more vocal sample I added. And what I do to find these, I mean, if you fool around and splice it all, you'll probably recognize this. But I'll just go, I mean, to keep it simple, like I'll just go to the key that the song is in and just like find one that I like. It might take a while, but I usually find a little sample I like. And you can really take this. This is pretty raw, like I don't think I did anything to it. Where is it? Somewhere in here. Yeah, I've literally, I mean, I wouldn't do this now because I've learned a lot more, but yeah, it's just a raw sample from Splice. But you can take this, like I was showing you earlier, and just the sky's the limit. You can do a different start time, slow it down, pitch it down. Yeah, you get the idea. So yeah, here's the final drop. And I realize I kept that the way it was. There we go. So, second part of the drop, it's important to have variation, I think. You'll notice the main thing going on here is the EQ. Dropping everything out to 50% on this EQ here. And then I added a stutter effect, I believe, with the sidechain. So one of these here. Yeah. So it's one of these shaper boxes. Oh, it's this one right here. Yeah. notice that I have that automated to turn on in this section. 16th note stutter. You notice it turns off here. And it's pretty easy. You just click it on and off, and then you create automation clip and just have it turned off right here. And then I have some fills before the last break, or the last hit, I say. There's just some oversampled loops. And yeah. So yeah, the outro is just the art player and the pad just being slowly EQ'd out. All right, so that's the song. And from this point, I'm going to get into some more technical stuff for those that care about it. So, in FL Studio, you can, what I do, route everything to the mixer, of course. You can just highlight all of these. Don't really need the MIDI on there. And then you go to the mixer and you channel routing, route selected channels starting from this track. And it'll route all the synth sounds that you need. And then, I mean, they're on here twice now, but you get the idea. So all of my synths are going to be going to this side chain here. All of the synth sounds and all of the vocal sounds. I'll usually have a separate vocal bus here. There's not many on this, but especially for songs that have a lot of vocals, I have a separate vocal bus. Yeah, and everything's going in the side chain, and then we got all of the shaper box, and then for some reason I have sausage fattener on here, so I thought that was good back then, but I don't really use that much anymore. And we have Neutron 3. I like using this for just some glue, mix bus glue. It's just some compression going on here. And I'll usually finish out the track before I do all, like I'll compose everything like before I do all the technical stuff because I feel like that's separate from, you're feeling inspired, you write the song. I want to have that just separate from the technical stuff. And then I'll do this later. So pretty much I won't even usually route anything unless I want to put some um, effects on it while I'm writing the song until like after I feel like it's pretty much written. And then I'll go through and add on this. I don't have a lot of uh, extra effects going. I've seen a lot of people have like, they'll have a sound and just this will just be filled and maybe even routed to another track and filled again. And and of course you can do what you want, but I don't feel like that's necessary most of the time. I think keeping it simple and making it sound good is more important than trying to just slam a bunch of plugins on there to make something great. Unless that's your goal, you're making some crazy bass sounds, which I'm not very good at, obviously. Um, I'd like to learn, of course, that style, but for now, I just like to keep it simple with the melodic stuff. And then, yes, I'll write everything in the sidechain, and then here's the pre-master. So everything's EQ'd. I got EQ on everything. Most everything will have the low end cut out. As you can see, pluck. This one I kept the bass on it because I like the way it felt. And then here's the 808 for the drop. It's EQ'd, it's low passed. And then as far as mixing, I just fool around with these knobs until I think it sounds good. I won't put anything on the master before I mix. And those that are you know, beyond my experience will probably say that I'm doing some things wrong, but I'm still learning. So this is what I do, as of recently. Um, yeah, so Fresh Air, that's a great plugin to boost the mids and the highs. And then, of course, I have Neutron on there, just a compressor. And as far as mastering, I just use Ozone mainly. So I'll have everything clipped using Fruity Soft Clipper. I'd like to get a better clipper. This one just, comes with FL Studio. And I'll usually put it around 70%, maybe 65, maybe a little bit more, depending on how much I feel like it needs to be clipped. And then, for example, here without Ozone running. Yeah. And then here's pretty much all the mastering is done within Ozone, of course. So I got a dynamic EQ going. As far as the EQ on actual master, pretty much at this point, I feel like everything's mixed well enough that I don't need a lot of extra EQs on the master. So I'll just cut out what is it, below 20 hertz. Because I heard that's what you're supposed to do, but there's a lot of debate on that. Yeah, because a lot of systems can't even produce below 20 hertz sound. So I hear that just muddies up. If there's artifacts down here, it's just going to muddy up the mix. Um, got that from Deadmau5. So could be right, could be wrong. I don't know. And then this EQ, honestly, it's just the polish, gentle polish, dynamic EQ. And then, oh, I love this right here is the vintage EQ. I always put it around 100 hertz, and then I'll boost it around a decibel just to get more low end. And that really helps, even just subtle. I mean, that's all the way. That's ridiculous right there. It's going to sound terrible. But yeah, I'll just put that up a little bit, just get more low end. And then the exciter, I'll just kind of go through these until I find one that sounds good, honestly. Still learning how to use this, of course. And then here's an important thing, the imager. So I usually go around 120 hertz, 1000 hertz, and 5000 hertz. And then I'll widen it just a little bit. And then everything below around 120, I do mono because again, that's what I heard you're supposed to do. And I think it sounds good when you do that. Keeping everything, because usually a sub is, especially on systems, it's being produced just in mono. So And then you can actually sum everything together. This is great with ozone here. So you can sum everything together and just listen to it in mono just to make sure everything sounds good in mono, which it doesn't right now for some reason. I think I messed something up, but you get the idea. And then you can even switch the channels, left and right channels. Like for me, I don't have good hearing in my left ear, so sometimes I'll switch the channels. Okay, I definitely messed something up here, but you get the idea. What did I mess up here? Anyway, I'm gonna actually figure that out real quick. Let's just reload the project. How about that? That way I can get into the maximizing and it actually sounds good. All right. So here's ozone again. All right, so the maximizer. So since everything's clipped around 70%, that's the whole point of this, is clip it down, and then you can gain stage, as I believe they call it, and use the maximizer, the limiter. Is arguably the most important thing in the mastering process is using the limiter. For example, here's without it. And with. So for this, I'm using IRC3 balanced. I guess there's very, very subtle differences between these, but I like the way this one sounds. And I cut off the ceiling is going to be at -1 dB, because again, that's what I've heard you're supposed to do. Some people will say -3.3 dB, but for all the music services, they say to cut the ceiling at -1 here. And then you want to click true peak here, because that'll actually won't let anything pass -1 dB. And then the threshold, there's no like number that you should go for here. It's just whatever sounds good until it starts distorting. And then you just pull it back a little bit. And I think this is what I decided for the final master, -4.5 here. And then as far as monitoring the LUFS, I use Ulean free plugin, loudness meter. And yeah, basically, I mean, I'll try to hit for the drops, especially around -6 or 7. And yeah, basically, I just push it because I'm sidechaining. Something I learned from watching that San Holo video where he breaks down light, because I'm sidechaining everything. I can push it pretty loud. And then this is just another limiter, just adding a little bit more. I don't even really think that's necessary. That's just adding a little bit more limiting. It might be even too much. I don't know. Yeah, and then from there, I just export and good to go. All right, thanks.